What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. This one's going to be speculating about Pokemon Z, or Pokemon X2Y2, Pokemon X squared Y squared, Pokemon XYZ. I don't know what it's going to be called. We don't know what it's called. Only Game Freak does and Pokemon themselves, so we can just use some code names like Pokemon Z is the easiest way to refer to it as. But, nice intro there, Matt. Nice intro. So, welcome, and today I'm going to be speculating about mysteries that were in X and Y that we could see either being solved, being built upon, or being sort of just hinted at in a possible sequel. So all the stuff we didn't really know too much about, all the stuff we thought, what is this, what, why, where, how, what does this mean? Stuff they could put into Pokemon Z to solve and to sort of, complete the game full circle almost, without leaving some, holes in the plot, I guess, almost. But here is all the stuff we're going to have. We've got a load of stuff. It's all the icons of stuff we're going to be covering one by one. Some of it's a bit interesting, I know, so we'll just sort of jump straight in ahead with number one, which is this Ghost Girl. So everyone knows this Ghost Girl. It's Lumiose. It's one of the buildings in Lumiose, and you go up inside it the first time, you walk out, and then this ghost appears behind you, I believe it is. She says, "No, you're not the one," and then she slowly doesn't walk, she drifts away. That's it. What is this Ghost Girl? We do not know. As I'm going to do for each one of these, I'm going to say, okay, so this could be hinted at or, referenced in a sequel. How could it be referenced as well as one to look at? Well, if for some reason Pokemon Z is a prequel of some sort, we could find out why this Ghost Girl is here. Maybe it's set like 3 years before Pokemon X and Y, something along those lines, and we find out that maybe she was killed, during this plotline, and she becomes this ghost that, hangs around everywhere. Possible. I don't know. I'm just speculating. If it was a sequel, however, we could possibly have, the exactly same sort of thing happen, except she could say, "No, wait, you are the one," and you could, that your character in the next game could be the one because you might have a certain item or a certain, whatever. So you guys get the idea. That's how that could be built upon in a sequel. But there are some other ghostly goings on we're going to look at now. So, looking at what we got left to cover, or the other stuff we have to cover, we're then going to go to this elevator here, and you guys might also know in Lumiose Station, as well as this other building, if you go into Hotel Regisme and in one of the rooms, you can go to this Ghost Girl, or this Hex Maniac as they're actually called, and you can talk to her, and she says something like, I think it starts off with be quiet, and then she says, "If you do, I won't hear the elevator." What's she trying to hear the elevator for? Maybe she's just, maybe she's sexually attracted to elevators, maybe? I don't know. Or maybe she's waiting for someone in the elevator, something along those lines. And if it's a prequel or a sequel, we could see something like that. I don't know. Either why she's here, or maybe in a sequel she could be there still, and then she actually hear the elevator, and then something might get solved that way, for example. I really don't know. This is a very sort of a broad one there. There's nothing too much we could look at, but let's move on to the next thing on our list, which is going to be this train here. Now, in the Lumiose train station, there is actually a note on the back of the billboard, the train times board, whatever, and it reads, "I'm going to go for help. Wait in the usual place." What is this about? I don't know. There's also a little boy there in his yellow shirt, and if you talk to him, he says, "It should be someplace right around here, right?" So maybe he is looking for the usual place, and this other person or something is in the usual place. We don't know what this is though. Maybe in a possible prequel or sequel, we could find out what this usual place is all about, and maybe who his friend is. Maybe they're just little kids playing a game, and we could just get the reference sort of solved there. Or maybe it could be something a bit more mysterious like that. Maybe his Pokemon friend, something like that. I really don't know. It's a possibility. We'll find out, I guess, in a prequel or a sequel. I'd say prequel, but I feel like Zelda's going to be a sequel, but I will mention prequel stuff if I can think of good ideas for it, I guess. Next up on our list, we're still keeping it Lumiose, and we're going to look at this Heatran. Now, I've covered this in a previous video before, as I have most of these things, because obviously I covered them for X and Y and speculated then. Now I'm sort of speculating concerning a possible sequel. So, this Heatran here, well, there are two ladies in Jean Plaza in Lumiose City, which is one of the plazas, and if you walk up to them and they'll be talking, and one of them says, "Whoa, I hear there's a lava dome Pokemon in Jean Plaza." And the one says, "Ho ho ho, it's hard to stand in Jean Plaza and not want to mimic Pokemon cries, isn't it?" So they're in Jaune Plaza, and they're saying about a Pokemon being in Jaune Plaza. I don't know. The Lava Dome Pokemon is indeed Heatran. However, you know, this could just be a little thing. I don't expect this to be like, you know, built upon in a sequel. Like, oh my god, Heatran has appeared in this, you know, whatever, in Jaune Plaza. It could be possible that this left lady has literally just made a cry of a Heatran, like, I don't know, like, that's my best Heatran cry impression, okay? And then the other lady is like, whoa, you definitely sound like Heatran, oh my god, like, sarcasm, you know? It's possible. You know, that's what I get from there, but however, it could be built upon in a sequel. Maybe a Heatran does appear in Jaune Plaza, and these two ladies are like, well, shit. Or maybe, you know, something like that. In a prequel, maybe, there would be a little story about how Heatran used to be in Jaune Plaza, I don't know. Something like that. You know, it's all about speculation here, guys, but that's what we got for there. I don't expect anything to be built off of it, but then if we take a look at the hedges, I spoke about the hedges in the other video the other day, covering this Pokemon here. You can see this new Zygarde form, as most people are assuming it is, talking about how the top left hedge could be this Pokemon here, possible, as well as we have Solrock, Chandelure, and Pyro as the other hedges. So we might find out what this last hedge is, if it is indeed, you know, about this Zygarde form, made after the Zygarde form, or possibly about, you know, maybe we'll win the game and then they might mention it, or if you take this Zygarde form to this you know, this hedge, it would be like, whoa, it recognises it, or something like that, at least. But as well as this, there are also two statues in Parfum Palace Gardens. There is a Zekrom at the top there, you can see a Reshiram in the middle, sort of bottom. Why are these here? Why are Reshiram and Zekrom linked to the Kalos region? We don't know. We don't know. Maybe if it's a prequel, we'll find out, you know, more about, I guess, the history of the Kalos region. I don't know, though. I do not know, though. Because maybe they're just there for the sake of it. Maybe, because we just had Gen 5 just before Gen 6. So, like, why would you have Reshiram and Zekrom be, you know, engaged again? Or involved with the story again? We don't know. Maybe they'll just have a little story about it in the prequel, even if it's not like a huge event thing. It'll just be like a sort of a something like, oh yeah, you know, I remember this sort of thing. It'll just be, you know, just sort of a little story, the history of the Kalos region and how Reshiram and Zekrom were involved somehow. Maybe they helped. Well, they didn't help end the war because obviously the Ultimate Weapon did, but maybe they were involved in the war, something along those lines. Going back to our list of topics, you can see we've covered some of the stuff here already, and now we're going to cover over to the Game of Thrones reference right there, Jack and Hagar, and we're going to look at the Faceless Men. So, this was a little sort of, it was sort of the haunted house of Generation 6, it was really quite shitty, but it was on one of the routes. You go in with your friends, and this guy's here, and he tells you a story, and it ends with a horde of faceless men scaring this guy, apparently. And that was it, that was the haunted house of Generation 6, it was pretty sucky. I've covered this before in a theory, and we seem to think that the horde of faceless men is Zygarde, because as I'll show you, this picture gives you sort of an idea. You can see it has 5 sort of, I don't know what it's called, 5 parts of its thread. Each of those has 2 of its hexagons on, which looks like eyes, and they don't have any mouth, obviously, because it's just that. So it's like a faceless man almost. So it's possible that it's Zygarde he's talking about here. Zygarde is part of the story. Maybe in Generation 6 as a sequel we'll go to this house and maybe he'll be disappeared, maybe there'll be a little hint as to what's happened to him, maybe he was taken by Zygarde as well, or maybe if you bring him Zygarde in Zygarde's new form or something along those lines, he'll activate some new dialogue or something, so possibly he might, you know, do that, or in a prequel we might get to see this happen, you know, this might happen to our character, for example, if we go inside the house, maybe something will surprise us as a horde of faceless men, who knows, but yeah, really, I don't know what could happen with this. You could just have the guy in there telling you a story, telling you another part of the story, something along those lines. Anything could happen really with that. So yeah. Then going back to our topics once more, we're going to look at Sycamore here. Now you guys might remember in Kuraway Town in X and Y, you see Sycamore here when you first pass through, and you have a battle with him, and he says that some of his treasure is hidden in the town. And this is actually up by the train station there, as you can see. There is some sort of letter or inscribing or whatever on one of the seats, I think it is. And it's basically a letter from Sycamore saying, like, you know, it's actually written to himself. It's like, you know, I'll see you in the future. If I try and find the transcript, I can obviously tell you guys what it is. Kuraway Town. I did have it open earlier, but I must have closed it because I just forget. So yeah, it's basically just a little letter written to his future self, and it says, "To the person reading this, what do you like now? Did you become who you wanted to be? For starters, what was the person you wanted to become even like? I don't know, but it would be wonderful if you could boast that you're living each day to the fullest. To future Sycamore, from the Sycamore dreaming of the future." So what does this tell us? You know, I'm not saying this letter is going to be brought back up again in the next game, because most likely it's not going to be, but it tells us that possibly Sycamore, I think we know Sycamore does not come from this region, possibly. I'm not too sure. I think it's confirmed that Sycamore doesn't originally come from Kalos. I'm not too sure, but really it's never really focused on too much whether or not he's actually from Kalos in the first place. My understanding is he's not from Kalos. He travelled to Kalos and studied here, and possibly this is linking to the fact that it's a train station in Kuraway Town. Maybe he came to Kalos on this train, wrote the letter to himself as he arrived in Kalos, preparing for his new part of his life, wrote himself a letter and then left it here, or maybe just put it here for you in the future where he first wrote it. But this tells us that Sycamore came on this train. This train actually heads to the west, inside Kalos. I don't know why that is and why it doesn't head to the right, or maybe it does head to the right. I'm not sure. We can't tell if it heads to the right, at least if it does. It might head both ways, but at least it heads one way to the left, and this could even turn around and just go on the ground somewhere off to another region. But this opens up the possibility that this could be a new area in the game, in the sequel. Maybe we have to travel to Sycamore's hometown. It's in the mountains somewhere to find out more about Zygarde, or maybe it's like a mini region almost, not like a full region, just like sort of half a region or something, just to add on. So it's sort of like 2 regions in the game, except we only have sort of 1.5, I guess, and it just means that the final battles are at a higher level almost. So if they didn't want to add 2 regions in, they could put one of the bit in. So maybe this train will take us off there, and maybe that will even be linking in with the strange Souvenir, which we'll cover a bit more later. But this is a possibility of Sycamore. Of course, we could also have a prequel, and we could see maybe a younger Sycamore arriving in the region, and we could be his first assistant, something like that, more like that. But obviously, that's just sort of an idea. I'm not going to say it's likely, but just an idea if it was a prequel. Then back to our topic list. We get into the end. Now we have the power plant, obviously the fire leaf green power plant icon is there. So the power plants in X and Y, there are actually 5 entrances. One of them is used in the main story, or 5 entrances or 5 power plants rather. One of them is used in the main story, which is the one we go into and we battle Team Flare in there. And then there are 2 other entrances, I think, or 2 or 3 other entrances, and 4 other power plants in total. One is sort of like a steam plant, one is the wind turbines, one is a futuristic looking plant in the bottom left, and then the final one seems to be heat. So steam, magma, air, and futuristic. These are not used in X and Y at all. We thought maybe they'd be added as DLC, or be able to get like an event item to enter these doors, and maybe there was ideas that Volcanium will be found in the steam one, Heat Trank found in the lava, obviously, and then you could, the air turbines, there's no entrance in there, but maybe that you could go further back into there. And the futuristic one, I thought maybe Deoxys or Jirachi could appear in there, but nothing was done with them, and they're all locked. So why would they put the extra doors in if we were never going to be able to use them? So maybe in Pokémon Z, the sequel, these doors could be opened somehow, either for events or through part of the storyline, and you could go more into it. Of course, the magma one, if maybe they have a Heatran down there powering this magma plant, maybe then Heatran and Jean Plaza, because Lumio Station isn't too far away, you could link into that there somehow. But I do believe if there's a sequel, maybe even a prequel, the prequel could maybe tell us why these power plants are not in use, and the sequel could obviously allow us to go inside the power plants and either explore inside them or find out, and we have to actually help out and do that. I don't know. I'm going to make a video soon talking about what my sort of predicted plot lines are for a Pokémon Z sequel, or X2, Y2, etc. So I can talk more about like maybe we have to go to the power plant as part of the plot line in those videos, or in that video rather. But that's the power plant now. I'm guessing we're going to be able to do something in Pokémon Z. Then we move on to looking at Looker here. Now, we remember in X and Y, Looker came to Lumio City to track down Xerosic, who was the last remaining Team Flare scientist, who you can see here. We had to help him, we had to defeat, I can't remember the name, it was Emma's sort of controlling personality, I don't know. It's Emma in the suit, who Xerosic was controlling, and in the end we defeated Xerosic, and Looker went to take Xerosic off and, deal with him, I guess, put him away in jail. Then we saw Looker in Oras, who was when he was on the beach, and he was you know, just all tired out, for example, and he's lost his memory, and basically nothing happens to him in Oras yet, at least. There's been nothing that's connected to him in terms of event DLC, or just events in general, so he's just been there. Now, in terms of the Pokemon timeline, I believe Oras happens before X and Y. In terms of what we originally thought, we thought originally X and Y happened at the same time as Black, White, or Black 2, White 2, I think it was, and Oras happened at the same time as Ruby and Sapphire, which is like a 6-year gap almost, which is a pretty big gap actually when you consider, okay, so this looker in the right hand image is going to become this looker in the left hand image, which is, it hasn't changed at all really. So in the multiverse, or on the alternate universe where Mega Evolutions occur, maybe Oras and X and Y aren't too far apart. Maybe Oras comes just before X and Y, because we see AZ in Oras rather. He doesn't have a flow out move, so we can assume Oras does still come before X and Y. So maybe it's not sort of like a 6-year gap. Maybe it's like a 3-year gap, or maybe like a 1-year gap, or maybe AZ returns, and that's sort of when it all starts. It's possible. We really don't know, just because we don't. There's no sort of solid hints of how far away they are from each other. So maybe we'll find out in the Pokemon Z game. But what happens to Looker between these two instances? One, why is he washed up on a beach with no memory in Oras? Assuming Oras, say if Oras happens even before the Diamond and Pearl of this generation, it means we haven't even had Diamond and Pearl stuff yet. Maybe this Looker, I don't know. Does Looker even say who he is in Oras? I'm just going to find out now. Let's look at his quotes from Oras. So he appears, I want to ask you something. Where am I? Hoenn, battle resort place. Yeah, I apologise for my actions earlier. Truth of the matter is, I have no idea in the world what I'm doing here, or even who I am. The first thing of which I can remember is waking here on the beach, baffled, lacking the circumstances that brought me here. And at the moment you appeared, it feels as though I have some duties I should be accomplishing, but of course, of it I cannot remember nothing. Maybe this is the Looker at the very start of his journey. Maybe this is when he decides he's going to become an officer of the International Police. Maybe before then he was nobody. Maybe he was just a guy that somehow lost his memory. And maybe he now becomes a new person. He doesn't know who he is, so either between Oras and X and Y he has to regain his memory somehow, or he becomes this new person. We never see Looker before this mind wipe almost. It's possible, considering it's saying Oras is 6 years before X and Y. That's enough time for him to sort of get situated. So he loses mind wipe in Oras, 3 years or so pass until Diamond Pearl, which is when he's we first see him as an officer of the International Police. Then he goes and does stuff in Nova, and then he finally comes to Kalos and X and Y. Possible, isn't it, guys? That this Looker we see in Oras is the very first Looker, almost the start of Looker. Possible, I don't know. But will Looker appear in Pokemon Z? Say Pokemon Z happens 3 years after X and Y. Will he come back and sort of help you out? Will Xerazic have anything to do with Pokemon Z at all? Maybe Xerazic escapes Looker. My initial thought when I saw this was, okay, maybe Xerazic escaped from Looker and caused this mind wipe. However, looking at how the progression of the games are, it doesn't seem that way. Plus, Xerazic he admitted to all his crimes. He gave back all the Pokeballs and stuff that he stole. He sort of wiped his hands of everything. So maybe Xerazic is not going to be, sort of an enemy, I guess, or antagonist in Pokemon Z. Maybe something else will come along. But I don't know. So maybe Looker will appear in Pokemon Z. Maybe he comes back to help you defeat whatever appears in to do stuff with Zygarde, whatever enemy team it is, whether it's Team Flare or something else. Or maybe he just turns up in the after game again and sort of something like that. Maybe he just pops up once or twice, but he could certainly appear at some point. But I spoke far too much about Looker. We're now on to the last thing on this page. Can you see what it is? Yes, it's the strange Souvenir. So we get this from the guy in the hotels, and he says his region it's from is not Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, or even Nova, and apparently it's far from Kalos. Maybe we're looking at a possible after-game region for Pokemon Z here. It's possible. I don't know. I don't know if they're doing a 2-region game for this game. Plus, it's far away from Kalos. It's not like Johto and Kanto, which are right next to each other. So we'd have to have some sort of transportation method. Maybe, I don't want to say teleport. That sounds really weird. Maybe a high-speed boat, plane, something like that. We've seen planes in black and white, so why not? We've used the plane in black 2, white 2, so why not bring a plane in and allow us to travel from Kalos to this new region, you know, just sort of give us an after game basically. One other thing to look at here is the strange souvenir several people have said looks like this Pokemon from, you know, the Zygarde form. If we look at it a bit more closely, we can see the souvenir has 2 big eyes, it's like a totem pole, 2 big eyes, 2 nostrils, a mouth, and what seems to be like sort of plates on its shoulders, or where its shoulders would be. If we take a look at this Zygarde form, we see the 2 big eyes, however they're lower down on the head, they're not sort of high up the head like the souvenir has them. They're lower down the head, the souvenir doesn't have this marking in the middle of the head at all, so it's not even like a little marking there that could suggest that it's it. But it does have the shoulder plates. This Pokemon does have the shoulder plates. In terms of nostrils and mouth, we can't really say anything, but we can assume it has a mouth, and we can assume it has a nose. However, whether the nostrils are big, as the one on the strange souvenir, we don't know. But could this Pokemon be the strange souvenir? It's a possibility, but I really don't want to confirm anything or, you know, say, oh yeah, I think it is, because I don't think it is. It looks a bit too weird. Plus, if this is Zygarde's form, how is this Zygarde form connected to this other region which is far away? Because Zygarde appears in, you know, in Kalos, so why is it on the other region too? I don't know. Anyway guys, that's it for all the mysteries in X and Y. I don't think I missed any. Of course, if you do think of any other mysteries in X and Y that, you know, we haven't had solved yet, or anything that you think might crop up in Pokemon Z, be sure to let me know, because I'm really interested in covering it. And also guys, let me know what you think about any of these sort of mysteries and how they might be covered in Pokemon Z. You know, is the Ghost Girl going to crop up again doing the same thing, or are you going to be the one? Are the Faceless Men going to come back and actually appear in the game? Is Sycamore's notes going to connect to some sort of after-game region or something on the train tracks? Who knows? Any other stuff I should about, guys, be sure to let me know what you think down below, because it's all very interesting stuff. And I guess, you know, I'll be seeing you next time. I thank you for watching this long video, but yeah, goodbye my friend.